Hi, I'm Bill Lundberg. I'm the head cross-country and track coach at Hillsdale College. We came to Jackson, and being a Catholic family and going through Catholic education, it was just before my sophomore year that we arrived, and I entered Lumen as a sophomore. The high school coach, Coach Arpino, really was a great influence at our school as a teacher, and I heard about him as a coach. And actually, my sister Karen had him in class, and there was some kind of finagling or working going on there, recruiting to try to get Billy out for track, I guess. But what happened was I really went out my senior year. It was my only year of running in high school, my senior year of track, and then things just really took off for me. I actually, hadn't had any experience as a distance runner or even a middle distance runner, and that's really what I was. I was a quarter miler, half miler. I long jumped also every meet and ran the mile relay, so those were my 4 events. And, it went pretty well. I went into junior college scene to the start of my college career, and within 2 years, I was a 2-time national champion. In other words, an All-American, but I had set a national record in the 2-mile. I won the mile and 2-mile and was most valuable performer in the national meet. And my coaches were awesome, just like Pat Arpino. I think people that achieve greatness, they're surrounded, or you want to try to find it if it's not there provided. I mean, I just was blessed with having great coaches. They were right there. I didn't have to go find them. They were leading me. They were guiding me. My career was one that was, I was blessed. I was a part of some of the finest teams in the history of the sport in collegiate track and field. Again, I competed in the Big 8 at the time. Now we know it as the Big 12. It's amazing how big the conference has gotten with the Texas schools in there. But at the time, for me, being a Big 8, I was a Big 8 champion in the steeplechase was my specialty, my event. And then I went on to be an All-American in the NCAA and then trying out for the Olympic team. So, I mean, those are the things, how I did at Kansas. That's, a question where, yeah, that's on the athletic level. But the growth that I had happening, not only in my academic life to pursue my degree, I was looking at architecture, but what happened is I made a change at the end of my junior year, and I started to pursue thinking about education. I was really reflective. I mean, I was thinking a lot about my teachers and my coaches back at not only Lumen Christi, but even JCC when I was there, my family, the loved ones back home. And when you're away from family, at least the kind of family I come from, I'm a real passionate kind of guy for life, for looking at, helping people, working with people. That's what was there early on, but it really hadn't. What I think the Lord really wanted to do with me is, He was forming me to be a teacher and a coach. That's the way I went. My track career was like, I guess some would say, I moved to the top pretty quickly, especially in my event, the steeplechase. When I started running in high school, I was a middle distance runner, but I kept getting stronger as we mature and grow. You develop, and all of a sudden I was building miles and really, even upwards of before I left the junior college scene, 75, 80 miles a week, even upwards of 100 or more before I finished even my collegiate career at Kansas. In rising to the top quickly, I was 10th in the NCAA meet as a junior at the University of Kansas, but the next year I returned, and the top 6 were All-American, and I was 6th in the steeplechase. And in that event, recorded my best time. That was in my senior year, and then I would later go on to run the Olympic trials and try out for my first Olympic team. The steeplechase, this event that I was developing in, I was ranked nationally and even, you might say, world ranked. But I had to first try to see if I could, be the best in the United States. So when I went to the Olympic trials in 1976, there were only 13 athletes in our race. It was very selective, and I was going in about 12th or maybe 13th even out of the 13 guys. That seems pretty unlucky, right? I go into the Olympic trials at the University of Oregon, and I was leading the race for a little bit, probably a little bit too excited, and early in through the first mile, the race is 7.5 laps, so the race really picked up, and I moved with the pace. Ended up finishing 5th. The top 3 make the Olympic team. that was a real victory for me. I would actually not be done with even being around the college scene. By that I mean I would return to Kansas and be a grad assistant and then continue with my career. So between '76, that Olympic trials, and 1980, man, it was awesome. I came home. I came home to Jackson, and I actually came home to Jackson Community College, where I got my start as a collegiate athlete, as an undergrad student. You know, JCC gave a lot to me. Now here was my opportunity. I'm starting my collegiate coaching career. As I was kind of tagged the youngest coach in the nation, I was thrown into this situation. I was excited. I actually had a job offer at my alma mater, Lumen Christi. I really was so excited about that in '77 to enter in and teach at my high school and that alma mater, and yet the other alma mater, JCC, was calling. They offered me the job, and all of a sudden I'm having to go back to Lumen Christi and say, you know I signed this contract, but I just think I'm really I'm really praying about it, and I think I'm supposed to be a college track coach. You know, in the midst of that, I was starting to talk about the Olympic career. Well, what happened is really interesting. Is I was a coach athlete, but that first year I didn't coach. I really wanted to devote myself to my athletes, and I trained still, but I really felt like, and I even talked with the athletic director at the junior college there. We talked a lot about focusing, you know, the things that would be needed for the team. But then '77 went by, and then '78, '79, I was actually, you know, racing again, and then fitting it with my coaching. And in that late '70s, early '80s, you know, I was able to devote a lot to the student athletes that I was with, and really focusing a lot on helping JCC with total recruitment, not just with sports. And then 1980 came. I was one of the top-ranked athletes again in the steeplechase in the United States. And even though the boycott was called in March, that was a tough one, by the way, March 1980, a boycott was called by President Carter. Jimmy Carter was our president of the United States, and the Russians had been invading Afghanistan. We still had the Olympic trials, though, and it was a great event. It was held again, like many years in the past, in Eugene, Oregon. And I would return and try out for the Olympic team again, but this time I would meet up with adversity in another way, not just in the way of the Olympic trials. What happened for me in my race, in the semifinal round, I was running the race, feeling great, really the best of my life, and went down in the race.